a new year with a bang, we are excited to add a new officer to the gang. Not only is she a college graduate, but she's also a military veteran. She was trained to specialize in reconnaissance and is also a drone pilot. Officer Stiletto, the former IG model, and also a makeup artist. With these skills, she will be successful as undercover officer Sapphire Steel. Through these adventures with Sergeant Be Safe, let's watch her bring justice and not get caught by Rob You Blind and his menacing crew. Speaking of his crew, look, she fits right in. When it comes time to reveal the image that she has concealed, she joins the team, making it nothing but a dream. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and watch her journey as Officer Stiletto works undercover as her alter ego, Sapphire Steel.
And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way. The new adventures of Sergeant Be Safe.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to a brand new episode 2025 of Black and Blue. We are going 5 years strong. Thank you guys for tuning in. I am your host. I'm your motivational speaker, your empowerment coach, your author, and your favorite baker's favorite baker. You guys know me as CLEE, Continuing Law Enforcement Edutainment, because we educate and entertain at the same time. You know, the Book of Crimes Code, Ecclesiastes 302, is the coldest code switching detective. And, you know, we're continuing on moving the needle forward and humanizing the badge. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is Black and Blue. The podcast is just for you, where we go live at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time weekly. And when we go live with the first responder or a law enforcement officer, and we talk about their trainings, their experiences, and their publications. And we're not going to fall short today. Most of you guys have been highlighting them all week long. If you guys don't already know who he is, you will by tonight. And we're going to talk about a lot about emotional intelligence. So get your questions ready, get your seat, pull your chairs up, get ready, because this is a live podcast interview. We're live on 5, I think maybe 6 now, 6 different platforms. We're on 4 on Facebook, 2 on YouTube, and 1 on LinkedIn, so 7. We're on and we're streaming simultaneously on each of those platforms. So therefore, make sure you put your name and where you're from in the comment section if you're looking for that shout out. Also, if you have a question, make sure you put that in the comment section as well, and we'll honor that question as best and as quickly as we can. Understand that there's about a 5 to 10 second delay from the time that we see it till the time that we can acknowledge it. So therefore, we might be on to another topic, but we will get to the questions as soon as we can. See, we got a few people in here. I said Seti P is on here. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too, sir. Thank you for tuning in. Shayla T is on here. Happy New Year to you as well. Got Rich Oakley. Good evening to you. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys tag, like, share, hit the like button. We trying to hit that algorithm. Lisa's on here. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in, Lisa. Thank you all for tuning in. Got a few LinkedIn, 2 to YouTube, and I see you guys. All right, we're gonna have a lot of fun today. It's the first show of 2025. I'm excited to be here. I told you guys last week that we were gonna miss out on the opportunity for a show. Things have been very busy. I hope you guys like the new animation with the Sergeant Be Safe cartoons. Got a few new ones to hit you. We got a new intro for the time being. A lot of good things coming down the pipeline. We're gonna continue to move the needle forward. I'm excited about 2025. I hope you guys are too. We got a couple recorded shows coming down the horizon as well. So therefore, we'll have those live shows and we'll have some recorded shows as well. We're going to kind of mix things up a little bit. Got wonderful things. What the One Way Publishing, is the sponsorship. But the sponsors, the Sergeant Be Safe cartoons, also this platform, Black and Blue. One Way Publishing, you see it scrolling below. No, you don't, because I got the wrong banner. Let me switch this. One Way Publishing, workwithclee.com, and it's in the comment section as well. That's where you want to go if you want to help out with the Sergeant Be Safe. If you ever thought about writing your own book, One Way Publishing is the publishing company that's just for you. Their motto is they can turn a mere thought into a book that's bought. I got to write 5 of my books. I have 2 of them that are digital. They have many clients coming down the pipeline, especially with 2025. They're going to be producing a lot of books. A lot of people have a lot of information that they want to put out there, whether it's digitally, whether it's physically. Have you ever thought about writing a fantasy book, an autobiography, a cookbook, an instructional book, a self-help book? That's how you want to get that done. All right. We got a lot of things coming. I'm so excited. I hope I'm not skipping anything. I'm trying to remember everything. We're on Spotify as well. So if you guys like to listen to podcasts on Spotify, this will be uploaded there once we're done as well. I think I covered everything, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I hope I did, because I'm excited to get to this interview. I hope you guys are too. But we've had Chief Randal Moody on here. Actually, this is his 3rd time on here. This is the 2nd physical live appearance here on the show, but it's his 3rd time on the show because we had him on here as a highlight review, and we highlighted his accomplishments. We highlighted his talking points on a show probably about a year ago, but I'm excited to have him back here now. He's got over 30 years of experience in law enforcement. He loves to talk about emotional intelligence. We highlighted the book Talent Smart EQ, where it was talking about Bradbury. The authors of Bradbury and Greaves. He's a recently transplanted new chief of a new police department in a very new state. And again, there he likes to talk about emotional intelligence. He's an instructor, and he's going to bring that mentality with him. Like I said, it's his 2nd appearance on the show, but it's his 3rd appearance. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, before I even butcher it even more, I'm going to bring him to the stage. Chief, are you there?
I'm here, Clee. How you doing? That's Detective Clee Tillman. That's Detective.
It is. Thank you very much. I'm having a lot of fun in this new position, and I know you're having a lot of fun, and you took on a huge challenge. So I commend you first and foremost, and congratulations to you.
Well, thank you, and Happy New Year, everybody. This is going to be great.
This is going to be great. Happy New Year, all. Thank you guys for tuning in to the first show, 2025. Chief Randal Moody. Chief, I know you told us a little bit about yourself, but what actually got you into wanting to be in law enforcement, starting back into, I believe, 1992? Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's kind of a funny journey. I grew up playing sports when I was little. I found the drums about middle school. And so I played drums and did drum corps and all of that stuff. And I wanted to teach music. I had relatives trying to get me to go to the military. And so I chose music, and I went to what is now Missouri State. It was Southwest Missouri State back in the day. And I went in as a music education major and actually wanted to teach music. And one of my roommates, who was a little older than me, left, got a business degree, graduated, and couldn't find a job in the business world. And he got a job here in Kansas City, Missouri, just north of where I'm at now. And I came up and rode with him. And the first call out of the chute was a cutting, and we ran lights and sirens. And it was at that moment I said, this is what I want to do. I can play drums any day of the week. I can't teach somebody to play the flute. I just can't do it. And so I went back to school. I changed my major. I was on the 5.5-year plan. I ended up graduating with a degree in social work. So I have a Bachelor of Social Work, and I had minors in criminal justice and music education. So kind of an interesting resume from there. But before I even left college, I found a job at the Greene County Juvenile Office, which is in Springfield, Missouri. Started out as a youth leader in detention, and then was promoted to deputy juvenile officer, where we had jurisdiction over juveniles, and Missouri has an interesting system with the way they do juveniles in the system. And I remembered it from 30 years ago. I thought was very effective the way that they handle things. So did that, and then once I graduated, I did that for a couple more years as I started to apply, and I applied out in Denver and Aurora, Colorado, and Aurora hired me first, and I moved out there a week before the academy started in 1996. And never looked back. I didn't know anybody at the time. It was funny. I got to my apartment and I literally sat there with no furniture and thought, what in the world have I done? And one of my first best friends that I met in the first initial meetings, his daughter and my son are about the same age, just a few months apart. And she just graduated the police academy last week in Aurora. So, wow. But that's how I got into it. It's making me old, but that's how I got into it. And, and part of the question, I'll piggyback off that too, because I was thinking about this when we were talking about questions, is not so much what got me into it, but what's keeping me in it. Right. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, because getting into it was one thing. That was 30 years ago. That was a whole other world. That was Adam 12. That was SWAT. That was all those TV shows, right? That was a different world. And police work was certainly different. So what's keeping us in the game? And for me right now, it is this opportunity to lead a department and to use the skills that I've worked on for so many years and see what we can do. So I think that's important to not just why you got in it, why are you still doing it?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for sharing that. And I got to correct you. I don't think that you're an old man in the game. I think you're very seasoned and you've come with a lot of wisdom and experience. So therefore, it's necessary and needed.
Very good. You can talk on my behalf any day.
There we go. But again, I do commend you for actually you've gone through the ranks of detention leader, youth leader. I'm sorry if I'm messing up the title.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
And then going through the ranks of a department and then switching up, going to another department in another state and heading that up as well, especially during a time when law enforcement isn't the most popular job to do. Like you mentioned, Adam 12 and a lot of the movies that I remember growing up on, Lethal Weapon and Die Hard and RoboCop and so many other movies that are like, yeah, I want to do this. And now you don't get that same nudge from the younger generation saying, I want to go out there and be in law enforcement. And here you are leading a department forward. That's got to be pretty challenging.
It is. And what's interesting, and if you pay attention to how recruiting is going, it used to be showing guys rappelling out of helicopters. I don't know. We didn't do that in our department. Kicking doors, going lights and sirens and all that stuff. And all that recruitment stuff was high adrenaline, running fast. If you pay attention to the recruitment videos now, it's the guys in the shorts on the bicycle, shaking the hands, kissing babies, and that community engagement. So it's certainly changed. It's fantastic. But being mindful of that and what this next generation of law enforcement officers is actually looking for compared to what maybe we were looking for 30 years ago.
Yeah. We never rappelled out of helicopters either. I did that in the Army, not as a police officer.
No rappelling off drones either, because that's what's coming.
Yeah, it is. You're right. But speaking of community policing, how important is that nowadays, especially in the world that we're in today, when you see a lot of people who, again, they want to keep to themselves. We got Uber Eats, so you don't have everyone that's coming outside all the time. In our department, with our occupation, sometimes we go to homes, we enter homes, we have to interact with people. How important is community engagement as far as you're concerned, and as far as law enforcement is concerned today?
Yeah, absolutely. It's everything, right? Of course it is. And we've talked about this ad nauseum, and there's all kinds of people talking about it. And I was fortunate when I came here, and you and I talked about this before we came on, about how different this environment is. I came from Colorado, Aurora, Colorado. If you turn the news on, you see something going on there. And 400,000 population, 750 sworn when fully staffed, very diverse community, to Harrisonville, Missouri, just south of Kansas City in the metro area, but a town of 10,000 plus and 28 sworn when we're fully staffed. We're down to 22. So we're struggling with recruitment. And so the great thing about this community is that they are already very supportive of law enforcement, and the folks that are working here love their job. They love to serve. So it's created a foundation that I plan to capitalize on while I can. Right. And we talked about it the last time I was on. We talked about the Ferguson effect. We talked about, we've seen other communities where they have a catastrophe or disaster or a critical incident. they didn't have those relationships to begin with. So that's not the time to try to start that, right? So building those relationships to begin with, so that when you do have those critical incidents, you can connect with the community, and you're already building that trust. You have that trust in place. And so you get a little more grace that they're going to believe you, that they're going to trust that you're doing the right thing, that you're holding your people accountable, and that you're getting the right information. So that is so crucial nowadays. And community engagement is everybody's responsibility, from the boots on the ground to my position.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And so, being a newly appointed chief here, what is your vision along with your department? Since it's a close-knit community and department, like you said, so that's got to be fun to come into. And I know you want to move that needle forward in a more positive direction. What's your vision for your tenure there at your department?
Yeah, so what a great opportunity. When I got here, what's interesting, and I'm not going to say anything that I haven't already spoken to the officers about, so this is not a surprise. They were without a chief for a while, and for several months. In my last department, they hired their 7th chief in 5 years right after I left. And so I know what it's like to not know what's going on, to not know what we're doing and what the vision and where we're headed. And there was a lot of angst and anxiety. And I heard the same complaints that every department has, regardless of size. We're understaffed. We have no money. Cops hate the way things are. We hate change. Who are you? So my first task was just meeting and getting FaceTime with everybody. So I did a couple of meetings with half the department on 2 different dates, and just kind of told them a little bit about myself. I didn't go down this road of expectations. I didn't know what the expectations were yet. We talked a little bit about it, but just wanted to get a sense on who they were and give them an idea who I am. And it was funny because when I started opening the floor for questions, I had one officer, and I loved him because he reminds me of myself, said, yeah, these guys aren't going to ask you questions because they don't know who you are. I go, fair enough. That's great. We'll build some trust. We'll build some collaboration. It'll be great. So my vision, one of the things other thing I did was I met with each one of them individually. And so that was even before I got out and really hit some of the community groups. I wanted them to know that they were the priority. And so I set up meetings with each one of them, including our professional staff. And I also oversee our dispatch center. And so we set about 45 minutes with each person. And I took notes and just learned about the ins and outs and the expectations and their wants and desires from their chief and where they would like to see us to go. So one thing that came out of that, the 3 things that I've told them are our priorities is self-development. First of all, they're starving for training. With a small community, the training budget is tough. So finding ways to capitalize on that, using my emotional intelligence training, we're going to do some of that. Some of the leadership stuff that I've taught to new sergeants, we're going to do some of that stuff. So that that's free, right? I can do that for free for the most part. And so doing those kinds of things and being a force multiplier by bringing in, whether it's watching podcasts or watching videos, we subscribe to some online services. The second thing is community engagement. So ensuring that the officers continue that engagement, because that's where it comes from. So when you talk about where does our funding come from, it comes from the community. And then the third one, of course, is crime prevention and enforcement. So making sure that you're building the skills to do that third one, and then building that community engagement so that you're also successful. So
that sounds fun, and that sounds exactly what's needed. It's like a breath of fresh air. And I know you're excited for it. I'm pretty sure they are too. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. Lisa Pertu, yeah, I think every agency needs to do outreach with the community they serve. I totally agree. I agree with that as well. And like you said, Chief, starts from the boots on the street all the way up to the very top. And yeah, I believe you're a prime example of that.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
And so bringing in, I know you're emotional intelligence instructor. What does the department get with that? I know that's your thing. I know you could talk about that till you're blue in the face, and it's needed. It's something that we talked about on the last show. It's something that when we came into law enforcement, you subdued your emotions. Now you talk about them, you get them out, you share them because it's commonplace, so you don't end up in retirement and you have PTSD or any other kind of ailments, mental illnesses or setbacks because of things that you've held on to for so long.
Yeah, you're right. I could talk about this all day, but and you're right. We used to say rub dirt on it, just move on. And when we started teaching it in Aurora, we made it a goal to teach all of our forward-facing officers, because there is a bit of a cost when you bring Talent Smart in. The kits, it's worth every penny, really. The kits that you get when we teach the materials, and you get an online portal, so you get online access to videos and whatnot, and through Talent Smart EQ. And so bringing those, let me back up, bringing those guys in, I had a lot of guys say, I don't know what this is, big tough SWAT guys, I thought we were suppressing our emotions. This isn't, and it's not about that, right? It's not about that at all. We are human beings. We're emotional creatures. And when we talk about, again, everything we sense, feel, touch, hear comes to the base of the brain, goes to that limbic system, and we have an emotional reaction before we ever have a rational thought. And it oftentimes happens really fast. So explaining that to officers to say, hey, you're going to have these emotional responses. Let's train and work on how to manage those. And we do it in many different ways. In our training, for example, we're always doing scenario training, right? And you see nowadays more and more, we're trying to recreate scenario trainings that recreate those emotions, whether it's adrenaline dump, whether that's tunnel vision, whether you're shaking, your heart rate, your breathing, all that stuff. That's what we're doing. We're training to recreate that. And what I call that acute responses with emotional intelligence. So those acute responses to those things that might be happening right here and now, whether it's running code or responding to a call, kicking a door, in a fight, and foot chase. The other part of that emotional intelligence is what I call the chronic application. And that is dealing with this stress for 30 years. And when we talk about emotions, they manifest themselves in physiological responses in the body. And again, we've talked about that, where the cortisol, the chemicals that are released in your body, they're killing us from inside. And not only are they doing that to us on these short events, but when we go home and we stress out about it and we have destructive behavior, and you're constantly doing that to yourself for an entire career. The great thing about the emotional intelligence and what Talent Smart brings to the table are strategies that you can use, because emotional intelligence is something that you can improve upon. It's a skill set that you can improve upon to make yourself better. And again, that's why we do that training, so that we kind of inoculate you, make you aware of what's going on, so that you can respond to it. And some of the easiest strategies that they talk about is breathing and self-talk. So when you're racing to a call or something's happening, you acknowledge that, okay, I feel it happening. I need to recognize that this is going to be a response. And what am I going to do? And one of the easiest ones is breathe. Just breathe. Whether it's a breathing exercise, the box breathing, any of that kind of stuff. Or just, we talk about counting to 10. We've probably heard that forever, right? Your parents probably said, 10, go to the room, calm down. That's what they're doing. They're creating this reactionary gap from this emotional response to a rational response. Right.
Absolutely. And I love that. The one box breathing, combat breathing always helped. That's something that we learned in the academy, and it didn't start to apply, at least for me, until maybe years 6, 7, or 8 on the job, when I actually started to, all right, there's got to be something to it. And I actually started to do it, running code to a call, and then, hold it and then out through your mouth for 4 seconds, and they're like, wow, I'm thinking more clearly. It works. Self-talk, again, like you said, we're our biggest cheerleader. We could be our biggest enemy, and we can also be our biggest cheerleader. So why not pump ourselves up? Why not get us going in a positive direction? I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's transformational on all different levels. So not only at work, but at home. I had these cops coming to me after this training saying, this is going to make me a better husband, a better father. And they walked away. We did surveys. We trained about 250 of them before I left. And we had a survey evaluation form, and we had them at the very end of the survey rated. And we were at about 4.9 stars out of 5, along with all the positive comments. It was great. And I'll give you an example of just even outside of work. So I traveled to Colorado for Christmas, and when I came back, my truck was parked and the battery was dead. And so I'd been traveling, I was tired, and I was fit to be tied when I called the garage that was nearby. They wanted to charge me $50 just to jump my truck. And so, I'm having that emotional response where I can't believe this is going on. By the time they got there, I'd done the self-talk. I'd had that, like, where am I going? It's a Sunday, I got nothing else to do. And the guy got out of the truck, and he was very nice. And then, so it's just that recognizing that emotional response that we all have in all kinds of situations, and creating that gap to have a better response. Because I could have chewed that guy out if he'd have been standing right there. That would have been a challenge. So EQ is a journey. It's a challenge sometimes for all of us, and so it's constantly something we got to be working on. So,
gotcha. And thank you for sharing that story too. I know. During Sunday during the holidays is not what you want to do with a dead battery.
No.
But Lisa's on here. She's got two comments on the floor. Absolutely important to do when officers are told to suck it up and not have engaging conversations about extreme events, and not making fun of someone with mental health or issues because of the people we serve. Absolutely. Also, trauma-informed care is extremely important to discuss. This has to be taught in every law enforcement position, from corrections to street officers. A form of therapy is breath work, sound bowl, and various other techniques before and after work. I do agree with getting your mind ready before and after work is a big deal. It does hold a lot.
Yeah, and absolutely. And we're seeing it in the academies. We're seeing it on a regular basis with peer support groups that are coming on board, and so many different outlets and resources that are available nowadays that get rid of the stigma of what we've been talking about, the stress, being able to talk about things. And it's a good thing. It's more and more prevalent today than it was a long time ago.
Right. And as you said, coming into your new occupation here as chief, you got a tight-knit community where the camaraderie, I would assume, I believe it's safe to assume the camaraderie is already there with guys who actually love being to work, and they've probably been working together for a reasonable amount of time to where they know each other. How do you expect to retain or attract other new recruits with possible morale issues, camaraderie that is already good? How do you expect to take that to the next level for oncoming recruits?
Yeah, when I first got here, the foundation was already built for that camaraderie. And you're right, in a smaller department, as you're aware, they are very tight knit. But I grew up in a town a fraction the size of Harrisonville in Nixon, Missouri. That was just a fraction of the size it is here. So I understand how fragile that can be, because when you're in a small community, everybody knows everybody's business. And so these emotional intelligence skills that we can use to build those relationships, to make sure that we have that trust, that collaboration, so we're holding each other accountable, that we don't break that camaraderie. And you as a leader, you got to stay on top of that, be mindful of those things, and keep those things going. And when it comes to recruiting and retaining, one of the things I heard was pay, but what I heard more than anything was culture. And so building the culture, if you build a culture, I've said this several times since I got here, we complain about a lot of things. Harrisonville's fortunate, it has a great benefits package, and we're hiring if anybody wants to come out. And so I can make my plug. But it's not always pay that's going to solve your problems. We think it is sometimes. And I think when you have other things going on, when you feel like you're being neglected, and like I said, there's no vision, and we don't know what we're doing as far as, we haven't had a chief for a while, and, where are we headed? I think those things become louder. If you create a good culture, and I've seen it, if you create a good culture, I think those other voices get quieter, as far as people will work for less money when their culture and their leadership is good. So how do I recruit or retain? We've got to build that culture, and we build it three different ways, or through three different techniques or aspects, if you will. Trust. We got to build trust with each other, trust with the community. They have to be able to trust me. And that's what's interesting about my first part of this journey, is that who are you? Who are you? What are you about? And trusting me. And then I got to trust them. And then that collaboration, I got to be able to hear them, let them know that I want to hear them. And I see that now, where people come into my office, or I'll talk to them and I can tell they're hesitant, or they'll say stuff. I say, hey, look, I need to know. I need to know so that we can all be successful. So that collaboration, and then the accountability piece, that third piece, holding everybody accountable to our mission, our vision, what we want to do, what we want to accomplish, and to why you're here. Going back to that first question, what motivated me to get in law enforcement? Reminding our people, what motivated you to get in law enforcement? Yeah. And I saw this before I left my last agency, about meeting with folks that were really struggling with their why or their purpose. So bringing them in and having that one-on-one conversation, and then taking it further and empowering our leadership. That, I always say all the time, never underestimate the impact you have on another person. And so getting our leadership to understand these emotional intelligence skills, how to use that and empower our people to heal themselves, if you will, so that they can find their why again or their purpose. And I think once you do all that, our officers become the biggest recruiters. Because they'll go out and tell people, hey, come work with us. This is great. We got a good thing going on. The rest takes care of itself. And I saw that on small scales with small teams in the command that I had in Aurora. And I was fortunate to have people that, humbled actually, that come up to me and say, hey, whatever you need, boss, we'll do it. And that's because you've built that trust and that collaboration, and I've held them accountable. So.
Right. And like Sheila said, culture is very important. That you're spot on. Absolutely. I mean, you hear from job to job occupation, no matter what it is, whether it is a first responder or law enforcement or white collar jobs or whatever, the people stay for the culture. People actually work hard for the culture because they enjoy being there. They feel valuable. They feel necessary. They feel trusted. Again, like you said, and accountability is everything. It's one thing when you're working for an agency or a department and you see someone who comes in 5 minutes late every single day and nothing happens. And then you see a person B over here, they come in 10 minutes late one time and they get the book thrown at them. But you're that distrust that you see, you don't know why it's like that, or it just it devalues the whole agency when this person can get away with it over and over again. And this person may not have gotten away with it one time, but they might have had a legitimate reason, but no one asked that person what was going on with their day, with their life. And then it just creates a culture of resentment, which then festers. And then, that's just the poisonous tree in itself.
Yeah, and I heard some of that in my one-on-ones. And it is all of these things, everything we're talking about gets magnified in a smaller department. When you have a smaller department, everybody knows who's getting away with what. And if you're not holding them accountable, that breaks morale, that breaks trust, because they think, well, my leadership's not even holding that person accountable. And that can be catastrophic to trying to be successful in your mission. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chief, I'm going to pause for the calls because One Way Publishing says our sponsors say that we have to take a quick commercial break. So Sergeant Be Safe is going to come on here and say a few things, and hopefully you guys will enjoy them. And then we're going to jump right back into this interview because we're having such a good time and sharing great information. You guys stand by. We'll be right back.
Sergeant Be Safe in the New Year's resolutions.
Officer Stella Stiletto, who is also the undercover Sapphire Steel, has decided to work out more often this year.
Well, Major Payne is going to not get stressed out as much this year and start taking more vacations. Inspector Chase Clarity wants to learn as much as possible this year, so he's decided he's going to read more books. You should too. SWAT Officer Clay Moore decided he's going to work on his patience a little more and be able to explain things a little bit more clearer this year. We'll see.
Captain Chaos and his K9 Kraken have decided that they are going to start their own K9 training business this year.
Community Engagement Sergeant Be Safe has decided he's going to learn more safety tips so he can educate the community more efficiently and effectively. Make sure you subscribe and stay tuned.
This year, Maya's going to learn chemistry.
Hello, my name is Maya. I could tell this is going to be my new favorite class.
Ooh, and these guys are going to stay out of trouble.
You can't stop me. I know my rights.
You want to see me outside? I'm called again.
This new year, while you're out and about, treacherous Tony may try and spike your drink. Or Chance Wilder could have that skimming device ready to take advantage of you. And definitely don't forget about Rob You Blind stealing from everyone who leaves their houses and car doors unlocked. Captain Chaos and I, Sergeant Be Safe, wants you to be safe this holiday season with these few safety tips. And that's your tip of the day to get you on your way.
I'm loving the new animation with the Sergeant Be Safe, and I'm hoping they get good safety tips. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. We got Chief Randal Moody here, aka Randy. I know I'm used to calling you Randy from the last show, but thank you for making yourself available. And again, we've been talking about emotional intelligence. We've been talking about your vision, moving department forward as a newly acquired chief in a brand new state. Though I can't say brand new, you've already lived there before, but I'm just saying a state where you're actually in charge of as being the chief as well. Congratulations on that. I know last show we talked about developing future leaders. How much more important is that to you now?
Well, now I have more control of that, being in a different position now. Absolutely. So it's and I've heard this too, like a lot of agencies, including my last one, we saw a lot of people leave the department. And so we had this leadership vacuum where we had people with little experience on the job, much less in a leadership role, moving into those positions. So it's even more critical now that we're providing good leadership. And there's so much out there. There are absolutely no excuses for us to not be developing our people. And we talk about good leaders are those that develop other leaders. And that's what we should be doing. So every chief, anybody in a leadership role should be empowering our folks, whether it's self-leadership, whether somebody wants to go into a formal leadership role, we need to be giving them the skill set. Some people are afraid to do that because we don't want them to take our job, right? I don't want to train you to be, I don't want to train you to be the chief because, oh my gosh. Well, when I came here, I said the next chief should come from Harrisonville. You have enough talent here that we're going to work on building that next chief out of this department so that when I leave, you're got the talent right here. So I'm committed to that. I'm always listening. Like I said, I did those one-on-ones, evaluating what folks need and want to do that next thing. Because the other thing I heard too, in a small department, there's not a lot of growth for promotions. So when you're in a small department, and especially when you have young leadership, if you do the job right, you create a good culture and nobody leaves, nobody gets promoted, right? Because it gets stagnant. So one of the things that I want to do is empower people to take on other responsibilities and other roles. So whether it's leading an awards board or helping us with our volunteer program, or we've got officers running our Explorers program. So we're starting up an Explorers program again that had kind of grown defunct for a little while there. So doing those kinds of things are so key, that so you're getting people and empowering them to develop those leadership skills so they're ready to step into those roles when the time comes. So some of that's going to be through the CQ training that we're talking about, the leadership stuff that I had been training before I left Aurora, and as a part of that leadership development program that I had created. And in that program, we talk about understanding adult learning, understanding what drives people to want to learn, understanding from a simplistic leadership 101 standpoint, what are the different types of leadership, and then how do you use those? How do you utilize those in different situations? Again, understanding your people and having that difficult conversation. One of the things I'm really proud of is the coaching for improvement policy that we created and was in the process of being implemented when I left. And that's a 4-step process that recognizes the difference between a performance failure, where officers are trying to do the right thing, maybe they make a mistake, and we can coach them up, versus somebody who's out there and willfully and wantonly disregarding our policy and doing harm. And that's going to be dealt with differently. But utilizing those things, and we in the training, I love the training that we did, because we would create the scenario and we would have them write, using the template on coaching for improvement, write what they would do for the officer to correct the behavior, and then we had them do the scenarios in front of the class. So on the last day, we would have somebody play out the sergeant, and this class was for folks that were either newly promoted or were about to be promoted, taking the test, and we'd get them in front of the room and we would give them the scenario, and we'd say the conversation is going to be around you having to sit down, say, I got a complaint, I need to talk to you about this, and we're going to do a coaching for improvement. And that's kind of where we stopped it. But we would ask the other player, the person acting as the officer, we used insights discovery. So what your color is, you have DISC, you have some of the different personalities. And then we would talk about how to address somebody with that color, blue, green, red, yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And we would give them an obstacle. And one of the favorite ones that we would do is we'd find somebody who was a red. And if you're a red, you're somebody that wants this, you want the information, and I want to get out of here. I don't want any small talk. Give me my ride up, I'm done. And we might give them an obstacle of they just want to be on their phone. And so you sit them in front of the room with this person acting out the sergeant role. And so hey, Officer Smith, thanks for being here. Have a seat. And then inevitably the role player would say, hey, can I just sign this and get out of here? Well, hey, we need to talk about this. And you watch this dynamic. And I've been through these before, and you really watch it. And these officers, they really get into their roles. You watch the body language, you watch them curl up, cross the legs as the sergeant. They're creating these barriers, and we'd point out these things. Did you see this? We'd ask, who's running this conversation? Well, the officer was. Exactly. So as a new leader, you have to be prepared for those folks who are going to challenge you and have those difficult conversations. And sometimes you have to put the stripes on and say, stop, and then kind of, be firm with them. So it runs the gamut. It's a great exercise. We got great feedback from it. But I think that's what we need to be doing in some of these leadership things is people don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to talk to each other. And you can read, I was watching some videos today about it on YouTube. You can do all those things, but until you actually practice them, it doesn't feel real. And then when you do it for the very first time, it can be frightening.
Frightening and eye-opening. I like that. Putting officers, newly promoted officers on the spot in front of everyone. That's where you learn. The stress, the adrenaline kicks in, everything that all kicks in. You're spot on. And not only that, you learn on the job as you do it, but it's not a real situation, but it's real enough where it's still stressful. You learn about different characters and different personality styles. And I like that as well, because working the job, you can talk to suspects, you can talk to victims, and each one of them have different characters and different personalities, especially in an emergency. They can be a totally different person than what they normally are. And we learn how to communicate and navigate through that. But it's very difficult to communicate and navigate through our own, or so we think, until we're actually put in those kind of situations. So I think that's very beneficial. Yeah,
and the guys get into it. It's amazing. It is amazing. They get into it. They don't even realize they're getting into it. And I've told these guys too that, if you need to rehearse it, come get with me or get with somebody else that's done it for you. I've been in a formal leadership role for over 20 years now. I've had plenty of those conversations. Get with us and rehearse it. And let me play devil's advocate. Let me do that for you. But in my experience, and I don't know how you feel about this, but most officers, they just want the truth. They don't like this. Oh, yeah. Especially officers have been around for a long time. And there's a great scene in Moneyball where Brad Pitt's character, I think Billy Bean, that runs the team, he's telling I forget the kid's name now, but he's telling him about how to cut a player, and he's telling him, just go in there and tell him to cut. It's just business. And don't go in there and walk all over yourself and look insecure. Just say you're cut. The team's going a different direction. Here's your papers. You're gone. Players leave, and that's what they want. And so understanding their personalities, that might come a little different. You frame it a little different, but the bottom line is they don't like beating around the bush. They want you to eventually get to, hey, this is what we need to talk about, and let's get through it and move on.
Absolutely. The leaders that were the straight shooters and meant well, you could tell the difference. Like, hey, I'm sorry this is happening. It is what it is, but this is what's going on. A, B, C, D, and this is how we have to adjust to it and deal with it. I'm like, wow, yeah, you respect it and you understand it.
Exactly. You respect it. And I've said before, and I've heard some of my favorite leaders say, I'd rather be respected than liked. And so they may not like it. They may not like you, but they can at least respect the fact that you treated them like an adult, a police officer and a human, and did what you needed to do. So it's been great. Yeah. Yeah. Rich Oakley chiming in with the added stressor of peer review. Yeah. So let me ask you this, Chief. Being a chief, let's say in another 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, where do you envision your department moving? That you would be that driving force in a positive direction. What are some things that you would like to see to come to fruition and maybe a 3 to 5 to 10 year goal? Absolutely. So I think this community is going to continue to grow. We're about 30 minutes south of downtown Kansas City. We're on the south side of what they consider the Kansas City metropolitan area in Kansas City. Harrisonville has its own small airport, has a beautiful historic downtown with a beautiful town square and courthouse. It's awesome, and it's building a sports park. So they're going to be bringing in a lot of ball fields and softball, baseball, those kinds of things. They have their own water and their own electricity. So actually, just their own water, I think. But so they have all these things. So it's a community that's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to grow. So what I've been telling these community groups when we meet is that we have to stay in front of it. And when we talk real with those folks as well, and when we talk about understanding incident command, understanding being prepared for active shooter incidents, they have a lot of events, parades, and community events, making sure that we are prepared, because those are only going to get bigger and grow. And so getting them to, I talked when I was interviewing for the job. I was asked, why Harrisonville, those kinds of things, how are you going to adapt coming from a big city to a smaller town? And I joked, and I very tongue in cheek said, I bring the future. I said, I grew up in a small town, so I understand small town dynamics, and I love the people in a small town, but I've seen what the big city is. I've told officers there's two kind of cops: those have been sued, those that are going to be sued. I've told them about active shooters having responded to the Century 16 shooting, and I've seen enough of that that I can relay that experience. I've seen failed leadership. I've seen officers get indicted, get in trouble, get fired. I've seen all of those things. And so I'm proud to bring a wealth of information and knowledge to a community that thankfully has not experienced most of that. And so getting in front of those things so that, God forbid they do happen, we're prepared and we're ready for it. Or if they never happen, great, we're still prepared and we're ready for it. But the last thing I want to have happen on my watch is that something happens and we weren't ready, because that's just unacceptable. And every chief should feel that way, and I'm sure they do. But so that's where I see us. I see us growing. Like I said, we're 28 sworn. We have our own dispatch center. I'd like to see us continue to recruit beyond just even the 28, continue to grow. And equipment, technology, we just got a grant, so we're going to put about 10 license plate readers throughout the community. So getting us into more technology.
Yep.
Again, being that force multiplier, when you are short staffed, those things are great. So technology, body cams, drones, we have body cams, but drones, and we were just having a meeting today about certain software and things that we could bring in. But it's challenging. Budgets are challenging in a small community. So the next 3 to 5 years, I'll continue to push my boss until he tells me to stop. And if he watches this, he'll laugh, because we had that conversation yesterday.
I like the way you're talking about technology moving forward and not being afraid to move forward with it. I know, like you say, cops hate change, but cops want the change itself. And so our department more recently, within the past year or so, we officially got more license plate readers on the intersections and on the cars. And so a township resident who's been flying under the radar got caught, and they kind of brought it to my attention, because I've got a working relationship with them from past experiences and past interactions where there's a mutual untrust, if that makes sense. So therefore, this person has been flying under the radar with maybe some registration or insurance things, that now with the license plate readers on the car, you're getting those alerts, and they're like, this cop followed me. They had no reason to run my plates. How did they run my plates? I'm like, I guarantee you, more than likely, you didn't even get your plates ran. It just, the LPR got you caught. And now you're going to have to be more on the straight and narrow and the up and up, because you can't hide from the little sticker that no one can see anymore.
Right. Yeah. The LPRs, the technology with those things are absolutely amazing. And if you get the right system, you have a database that all over the country. So it's amazing.
Yeah, I know. The LPR saved me on a case I was working a few months ago on a retail theft. The video is grainy, but the LPR is caught. The camera of the department caught the vehicle leaving, ran it through the LPRs, got caught on the LPR as it was going through that same intersection where the theft occurred, was able to trace it back to social media pages, find out who they were, and they admitted it on their social media page. It was cut and dry. All from LPRs.
I got to tell you, I got to brag on it. If we got time, I got to brag on our department.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a couple of weeks ago, we had an armed robbery in town, which, things get magnified, right? And the last thing you want to do is commit a crime like that in a town where there's not a lot of crime like that, because every officer is available, spent time on solving this crime.
Absolutely.
They had a suspect description. They had a truck description. We don't have LPRs yet. These guys went different doors down the streets, got ring cameras, got business cameras, saw the truck into a certain neighborhood, eventually find the truck in a driveway, and after doing surveillance, get the suspect in custody and search warrant, got more evidence. It was unbelievable police work. I don't care what size agency you have. And it was just boots on the ground, technology. Even without the technology, the guys did a fantastic job. Imagine what we could accomplish with the technology. So,
hey, kudos to those guys. Kudos.
Yeah.
I know when your heart's in it, and whether you have the equipment or not, you find ways to make it happen. Kudos. That's a job well done.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked a little bit about where, 3 to 5 years and whatnot. One of the things I'd love to do, and I want to mention the work that Talent Smart's doing in West Virginia, because I'd be interested in doing stuff on the state level as well and bringing this here. But I don't know if you're familiar. So West Virginia, just in the last couple of years, enacted legislation that every law enforcement officer in the state will go through the Talent Smart EQ training. So they found funding. There's a great video on YouTube about that program and what they're doing. So, emotional intelligence is certainly starting to take hold in law enforcement. I'd love to see more states get involved in that, find the funding, especially for the small guys that can do that and bring that training in. Because again, as we've been talking about it, and I could talk about it forever, is just how crucial I think it is. I call it the next officer survival, because we've talked before about, there's always that thing in the back of your head that you're going to get hurt or not come home in one piece and those kinds of things. And now we're more worried about being indicted or making a mistake and those kinds of things. Well, these emotional intelligence skills help you deal with those situations, and I think make better decisions and build better relationships and try to avoid some of that stuff. So if you're going to do the job, dig into that. And I hope that this gets people thinking more about it.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. I did not know that. I'm gonna have to look into that a little deeper. West Virginia is not that far from where I'm at now. So
yeah, and I talk about, and I said this last time I went back and watched it. I make a plug for Talent Smart EQ because I think it's fantastic, and I make nothing off it. But Dr. Greg Campbell is their vice president over law enforcement and government, and he's a former law enforcement officer, and so he runs that program. And like I told you earlier, I got to meet him in Boston, and what a great man, and what a great program. And if you want to reach out, go to that website, talentsmarteq.com. You can find them on LinkedIn. You can find them on all the platforms. You can sign up for their newsletter. I get newsletters every day from them, and just dig into the material and contact Greg. He'll help you find a class. He'll help come out to your agency and get people trained up to bring that to. And they have not only just the emotional, there you go, the emotional intelligence, the self-assessment, but they also have in their level 2 is a 360 assessment, where you get to take this assessment, but you give it to your colleagues and they assess you anonymously. And then you bring that to the class and you learn about that. And then they also have an emotional intelligence and teams program. So lots of different avenues and opportunities and some great material to build your emotional intelligence skills.
Yeah, there's no reason not to now. I mean, you say it's almost everywhere. So you have no excuse. You have a resource right at your fingertips.
Right. And I say this in I think Greg would agree, even if you're not doing it through Talent Smart, it's all over the place. Learn about it. If you're a leader, empower your people to learn about it. Give them that. I tell new sergeants, I say it's not about you anymore. It is, but you got to keep developing your skills, but it's not about you anymore. You've got to help your folks develop their skills and empower them. So if you're a leader, I don't, same thing with wellness. I don't care if you do yoga for law enforcement, which is a thing that I learned. I don't care if you like the wellness stuff or whatever. If you're going to be a leader, it's your responsibility to make sure your followers understand those resources, because that's what you're there for. That's what you're there for.
Yeah, absolutely. And also EAP peers, they're there as well. And a lot, I think it's safe to say most departments, if not all, there's some sort of representation of a peer as well. So, I mean, there's many resources, many avenues to reach out, as you said.
And I saw Lisa had made a comment about gym memberships. Harrisonville actually gives you membership to our rec centers for free. And Aurora did that right before I left. So we're starting to see that too. Aurora even had a physical therapy room where they had a physical therapist on staff that you could go in for any bumps and bruises that you had, job related or not, for police and fire. And so you're starting to see more and more departments bring these things on for that wellness piece. So it's good. It's good.
Yeah. Absolutely, Chief. Hey, Chief. Before I ask you if there's anything else that you want to follow up on, again, but you mentioned earlier in the podcast that your department is hiring. If anyone wants to come out and work for you and wants to be a hard charger and learn their emotional intelligence and be a future leader, how would they go about doing that if they wanted to get in contact with you or wanted any other information?
Absolutely. So we're just getting ready to do a push for lateral hires. With our new budget this year. So we're working on that flyer. So if you go onto Facebook, Harrisonville Police Department on Facebook, we're on X, I'm on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn and connect. We're going to be posting that flyer with the information on how you can lateral over to the Harrisonville Police Department. And we'd love to have folks apply. We're building something great here, and I'm excited about it. I really am.
Perfect. Hey, thank you for sharing that plug. But also, in the course of conversation, I may have forgot to ask a question, or I may have jogged your memory itself, and there may have been something else that you want to put forward that we just didn't get to. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us right now? The floor is yours.
Again, I'm proud to be a part of this podcast. You do a great job.
Thank you.
I think it's fantastic what you're doing. There's so much of this out there that's great, and you're top shelf. So thank you for doing that, and for having me on. I've seen the caliber of guests you have, and I'm humbled to be a part of that. But it's been a journey for me. The thing I love about leadership and this emotional intelligence stuff is that I wasn't perfect. I'm still not perfect. You tell people closest to me, ask them, they'll probably tell you I'm not perfect. But I continue to work on it. And that's the great part about it, is it's a journey. And it is so rewarding when you're empowering your folks and you're working with your followers and giving them the skill set. And then when you see those light bulbs go off for them, that goes back to why I do this. Why I continue to do this and helping folks remember their purpose and their why, especially with so much scrutiny in law enforcement these days. So I appreciate the time. I welcome anybody to reach out. I'd love to talk more about emotional intelligence. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. This is probably the best way to contact me there. And let's have the conversation. Let's keep this going. And thanks again. I appreciate it. Happy New Year.
Hey, happy New Year. 2025 is going to be all the way live. We're having fun here on Black and Blue. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Chief Randal Moody in here. He's doing tremendous things out here. He's, again, humanized the badge and moving the needle forward. Make sure you guys check him out. If you're interested in law enforcement, reach out. If you're interested in getting a job, make sure you go to those locations that he said on Facebook. Check out his department if you're looking forward to moving to that part of the country or just being under some great leadership. Either way, this is still a noble profession. This profession is always evolving, always changing. We need good people in these great situations to help move this needle forward. So if you're just thinking about it, reach out to anyone that you know that's a first responder and law enforcement and get that thing done. Chief, thank you again for coming on here. It's my pleasure to have you on here. Before I was calling you Captain, now I'm calling you Chief. Looking at you rise through your fruition, your journey is inspiring to me. And emotional intelligence is something that I would have laughed at, quite honestly, my first couple years on the job. Now that I've seen the importance of it firsthand and through the lives of other officers and retirees, it's not something that I would laugh at all. I think it's something that's very, very necessary and important. So thank you for putting that out there and having the courage to put that out there and keeping it moving on and teaching others about it. I thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Clay.
Yep.
Technically.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I hope you guys enjoyed this show as much as I did. 2025, it's going to be a great year for us. Chief, he's come on the show. This is third time, like I said, being on the show. Second time here live. I appreciate him. I appreciate everyone who's already got the month of January filled up. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're going to have a tremendous month. We're going to have a tremendous year this year. This is Black and Blue. The podcast is just for you, where we're bringing you edutainment and education. CLEE, continuing law enforcement edutainment, and we're going to continue to do so. well. Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we go live at 7 p.m. With a first responder or law enforcement agency talking about law enforcement official. I'm sorry, talking about their trainings, experiences, and their publications. So make sure you guys tag, like, share, get this information out there. We're going to continue to have fun, and we want you guys to take care of each other. You guys have a safe New Year. Happy New Year to you all. Rich Oakley's on here saying thank you, Chief Moody. Absolutely. Thank you, Chief Moody. And Sergeant Be Safe is going to take us out. You guys will see you next week. Thank you. 10-4, over and out.
Missing person, attention, beautiful model. Social media beauty queen is gone but not forgotten. Attention, missing person. All cars, alert, be on the lookout for. Attention. Enter and see Captain Chaos is on his phone, and SWAT Officer Clay Moore is eating his lunch. The new recruit, Officer Stella Stiletto, immediately jumps up and says,
Captain, I specialize in missing persons. I'll lead the case.
And Captain Chaos says, Yeah, whatever, go ahead. Clay Moore chimes in. What if she's hiding under a filter? Then we see Officer Stella Stiletto transform into her undercover role, Sapphire Steel.
I know filters, makeup. I used to be a model, so I know how to find one.
A missing persons report is something the whole department takes seriously. Inspector Chase Clarity is looking high and low. Sergeant Be Safe is looking closely on the ground. Captain Chaos and Kraken are searching for her scent, while SWAT Officer Clay Moore is turning up every fine detail. Suddenly, treacherous Tony is spotted in a suspicious van.
There he goes. Let's chase. This is more thrilling than a reality show.
Well, even though it's not related, treacherous Tony gets arrested for committing another crime. Escorting him is Inspector Chase Clarity and SWAT Officer Clay Moore.
I'm sick of going to jail.
Attention, model not missing. Model located at her home safely with no makeup and no social media filters on.
Looks like she was hiding from reality.
Looks like she didn't need a filter after all.
Case closed.
Sometimes the truth is harder to look at. These social media filters are so good that we're out here looking for a beauty queen, when in fact, the real person is the ugly duckling. And that's your tip of the day. Get you on your way.
I'm not a bad cop.
I never once said you were. It would be real simple if the problem was bad cops. It ain't.